Her father's voice sliced through the dinner party like a blade cutting through silk. "Why would my daughter waste her time with you? You're nothing but a poor, wretched man who can't provide anything for her future." The words hung in the air, heavy and cruel. Laughter erupted around the table like a chorus of hyenas. 30 faces turned toward me, smirking, judging, their eyes glittering with malicious pleasure. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, her cheeks burning red with shame and anger. She reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it desperately. My chest tightened. Rage boiled beneath my skin like lava, but I forced my face to stay calm, neutral, unreadable. I took a slow breath, counting to 5 in my head, and smiled. A thin, quiet smile that said nothing and everything at once. Her mother whispered to the woman beside her, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's blinded by love. She can't even see what he really is, a nobody with nothing to offer." At that moment, staring at their smug faces, I made a decision. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't defend myself. Instead, I would show them exactly who I am. Not today, not with anger or desperate explanations, but soon. Very soon. They had absolutely no idea what was coming for them. My name is Alexander Harlow. I'm 38 years old, and I've spent the last 15 years building something most people only dream about. I grew up with wealth, yes. My family's fortune opened doors and provided opportunities. But from my early 20s, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided that my family's money was not mine. It belonged to them, earned by them, and I refused to live off their success. I wanted to build my own empire, create my own legacy, prove to myself that I could make it without the safety net. So I walked away from the inheritance, from the family business, from the easy path. I studied, I worked, I invested carefully. I learned from failures and celebrated small victories. For 15 years, I poured everything into becoming the man I wanted to be, not the man my family's wealth could make me appear to be. By the time I turned 35, I had succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. Properties, investments, businesses, all mine, built from the ground up. But success in business meant nothing when it came to finding real love. Women were drawn to me, yes, but I could always tell why. They saw the lifestyle, the potential, the status. They never saw me. So at 37, I made another decision. I set myself a goal, find genuine love and settle down before I turned 40. Not because my aging parents pressured me, they had long given up on that, but because I wanted it. I wanted a family of my own, built on authenticity and real connection. To start fresh, I needed to go somewhere no one knew me. Somewhere I could be just a man, not Alexander Harlow with his reputation and wealth. So I traveled to a mid-sized city 3 states away, took a modest apartment, drove an ordinary car, and lived simply. For 3 months I existed in this quiet anonymity, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Then, 5 months ago, I walked into a small cafe on a Tuesday afternoon, and I saw her. Amanda Bennett sat by the window, reading a worn paperback, her dark hair falling across her face like a curtain. Something about her drew my attention immediately. Not just her beauty, though she was stunning, but something deeper. A sense of peace, of authenticity. She looked up when I walked past, and our eyes met. Something clicked in my chest. I sat 2 tables away, pretending to focus on my phone while stealing glances. She smiled, catching me looking. I smiled back. 10 minutes later, I worked up the courage to ask if the seat across from her was taken. "It is now," she said with a warm laugh. We talked for 3 hours straight, about books, dreams, childhood memories, fears we'd never shared with anyone. She told me she was an elementary school teacher who loved her job despite the modest pay. I told her I worked in investment consulting, keeping it vague. I didn't mention the wealth, the properties, the empire I'd built. I just wanted to be a man talking to a woman. When we left that cafe, I had her number. 3 days later, we had our first real date. I fell completely for her that night. Over the following months, our relationship deepened. Amanda was everything I'd been searching for. Grounded, genuine, kind without being naive, intelligent without being pretentious. She didn't care about expensive restaurants or designer clothes. She was happy with picnics in the park, long walks, movie nights at home. She saw me, really saw me, in a way no one ever had. I learned that her family was comfortable, even relatively wealthy by most standards. Her father, Douglas Bennett, owned a successful commercial real estate company. They lived in a nice neighborhood, drove decent cars, belonged to the right clubs. They had status in their social circle. But compared to what I'd built, they were barely scratching the surface of real wealth. Not that it mattered to me. What mattered was Amanda. But as our relationship grew serious, she wanted me to meet her family. "They're going to love you," she said one evening, her eyes bright with excitement. I wasn't so sure. I dressed simply, as always. I drove my modest sedan. I showed up with flowers and a genuine smile. But from the moment I walked through their door, I felt the judgment. Her father's eyes scanned me from head to toe, assessing, calculating, dismissing. Her mother's smile was polite but cold. Her brother, Timothy, barely acknowledged my presence. They had already decided who I was before I'd said a single word, and nothing I said that evening changed their minds. That first dinner was excruciating. Douglas Bennett sat at the head of the table like a king holding court, asking questions designed to expose my inadequacy. "What do you do for a living, Alex?" he asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer would disappoint. "I work in investment consulting," I answered honestly. "Consulting," he repeated, as if tasting something bitter. "That's what people call it when they can't hold down a real job." Amanda's hand squeezed mine under the table. "Dad, that's not fair." "I'm just being realistic, sweetheart," Douglas said. "The world is tough. You need someone established, someone with a real career path." Her mother, Patricia Bennett, added her voice. "We're just concerned about your future, dear. You're such a beautiful girl. You could have anyone. Why settle?" The implication was clear. I was settling. I was beneath her. Her brother Timothy smirked from across the table. "How much does investment consulting pay these days?" The question was designed to embarrass me. I kept my face neutral. "Enough to get by." "Just getting by," Douglas said, shaking his head. "That's not the life I want for my daughter." The rest of dinner continued in the same pattern. Small jabs, dismissive comments, judgmental looks. But there was one person who was different. Amanda's grandmother, Evelyn Bennett, sat quietly at the end of the table, watching everything with sharp, thoughtful eyes. When dinner ended and we were leaving, she took my hand warmly. "Young man, you have kind eyes," she said softly. "That matters more than anything else." It was the only kindness I received that night. Over the next few months, Amanda and I grew closer despite her family's disapproval. Every family gathering was the same, quiet hostility dressed up as concern. Douglas never missed an opportunity to point out my shortcomings. Patricia made sure to mention other men, successful men from good families, who were interested in Amanda. Timothy openly mocked me when he thought I wasn't listening. "I don't understand what she sees in him," he said once at a family barbecue, his voice carrying across the yard. "He's got nothing to offer." But Amanda stood by me. "I love him," she told them repeatedly. "Why can't that be enough?" "Because love doesn't pay the bills," Douglas would respond. "Love doesn't secure your future." The only bright spot was Evelyn. Amanda's grandmother went out of her way to be kind to me. She'd invite me for tea when Amanda was at work, asking about my thoughts on life, books, philosophy. She never asked about my job or finances. She cared about character. "My son has forgotten what matters," she told me once, stirring honey into her tea. "He's so focused on status and money that he's lost sight of what makes a person valuable. He just wants the best for Amanda," I said diplomatically. Evelyn shook her head. "No, dear, he wants the best image for himself. There's a difference." I came to cherish these conversations with Evelyn. She was wise, kind, and saw people for who they truly were, but even she had no idea who I really was. I started documenting everything. Every insult, every dismissive comment, every judgmental look. Not because I wanted revenge, I'm not that petty, but because I knew the truth would eventually need to come out, and when it did, I wanted to remember every moment of their arrogance. I kept detailed notes in an encrypted file on my laptop. Dates, times, exact quotes. The time Douglas called me a waste of my daughter's potential at a family dinner. The time Patricia told her friends, loud enough for me to hear, that Amanda was going through a phase with an unsuitable man. The time Timothy posted on social media about his sister's unfortunate choice in companions. I didn't tell Amanda about the documentation. She was already torn between me and her family. I didn't want to add fuel to that fire. But I was patient. I'd spent 15 years building an empire through careful planning and strategic thinking. I could wait a little longer for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. In the meantime, I lived simply. I went to my modest apartment every night. I drove my ordinary car. I wore simple clothes. I gave no indication that I was anything other than what they believed me to be. Because the bigger the gap between their perception and reality, the more powerful the revelation would be. Patience, I reminded myself daily, always wins in the end. At a family barbecue, Amanda's cousin Stephanie pulled me aside near the garage. She was a quiet woman who usually stayed out of family politics. "You're handling this better than anyone I've ever seen," she said, glancing toward where Douglas was holding court by the grill. I looked at her, surprised. "Handling what?" "Them," she said, nodding toward the family. "Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia. They did this to my husband too when we first got together. They made him feel like nothing, like he wasn't worthy of being part of this family." "What happened?" I asked. "He left," she said quietly. "He couldn't take the constant judgment. We broke up because of them." Her eyes were sad. "I've regretted it ever since." "I'm sorry," I said genuinely. She looked at me carefully. "But you're different. You're not breaking. Why?" I thought about how to answer. "Because I know who I am," I said finally. "Their opinion of me doesn't change that." Stephanie smiled slightly. "Good. Hold on to that, because they're planning something." My attention sharpened. "What do you mean?" "I overheard Aunt Patricia and Uncle Douglas talking," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They're going to give Amanda an ultimatum. Force her to choose between you and the family. They think if they push hard enough, she'll choose them." My stomach tightened. "When?" "Soon," Stephanie said. "Maybe in the next few weeks. I just thought you should know." I thanked her and returned to Amanda's side. My mind was already working, planning, preparing for what was coming. 2 weeks later, Douglas invited Amanda on a weekend trip to their family cabin. "Father-daughter time," he called it. Amanda hesitated, looking at me uncertainly. "Go," I encouraged her. "Spend time with your dad." "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to leave you." "I'm sure," I said, kissing her forehead. Family is important, but I knew what was really happening. This was the setup for their ultimatum. The weekend was torture. Amanda called me Saturday night, crying. "He's been questioning me all day about us," she said, her voice breaking. "About your job, your future, whether you can provide for me. He keeps saying I deserve better." I forced my voice to stay calm. "What do you think?" "I think I love you," she said firmly through her tears. "I think you're everything I want. But Alex, he's threatening to cut me off, to disown me if I don't end things with you." My heart ached for her. That's his choice to make. "But Amanda, you need to know. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. I won't be angry if you choose your family." "I'm not choosing them," she said fiercely. "I'm choosing you. I just wanted you to know what's coming." When she came home Sunday, her eyes were red from crying, but her jaw was set with determination. The battle lines had been drawn, and Amanda had chosen her side. Now I just needed to wait for the right moment to show her family exactly what she'd chosen. The confrontation came at a formal family dinner the following week. Douglas had invited extended family and several of their wealthy friends, clearly intending to make a public statement. Amanda and I arrived together, and I immediately felt the tension in the air. Douglas wasted no time. Before appetizers were even served, he stood at the head of the table and cleared his throat. "I think we need to address something as a family," he announced. "Amanda's relationship with this man." He gestured toward me dismissively, not even using my name. Amanda's face flushed red. "Dad, not here. Not now." "Yes, here. Yes, now," Douglas said firmly. "You need to hear this from people who care about you, from people who can see clearly what you apparently cannot." He turned to address the room. "My daughter is a beautiful, intelligent woman with her whole life ahead of her. She comes from a good family. She deserves someone who can match her in status, in wealth, in prospects." His eyes landed on me with contempt. "Instead, she's wasting her time with someone who has nothing to offer, someone who will drag her down to his level." The room was silent. Patricia added her voice. "Sweetheart, we're not trying to be cruel. We're trying to protect you. You're blinded by infatuation. You can't see that this relationship has no future." Several of their friends nodded in agreement. Timothy spoke up from across the table. Come on, sis. Be realistic. What's he gonna give you? A life of scraping by? That's not what you deserve. Amanda stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. That's enough, she said, her voice shaking with anger. You don't know anything about him. You've never even tried to know him. We know enough, Douglas said coldly. We know he has no real career, no assets, no prospects. We know he's completely unsuitable for you. He makes me happy, Amanda said, tears streaming down her face now. Doesn't that matter at all? Happiness fades, Patricia said. Reality sets in, and when it does, you'll regret this choice. Douglas stepped forward. So here's what's going to happen, Amanda. You're going to end this relationship today, right now, or you're no longer part of this family. The ultimatum hung in the air like a guillotine blade. The entire room held its breath. I stayed seated, watching Amanda. This was her moment, her choice. I wouldn't influence it. She looked at me, tears pouring down her face. Then she looked at her father. Then I'm no longer part of this family, she said, her voice breaking but firm. Patricia gasped. Amanda, you don't mean that. I do, Amanda said. I choose Alex. I choose love. I choose happiness. And if you can't accept that, then I don't need you in my life. Douglas's face turned to stone. Fine, you're cut off. No more financial support. No more family events. You're on your own. Then I'm on my own, Amanda said. She turned to me. Let's go. We walked out together, leaving a room full of shocked faces behind us. But I noticed one person at the end of the table, watching with sad but knowing eyes. Evelyn Bennett sat quietly, shaking her head at her son's cruelty. The next 2 weeks were hard for Amanda. She cried often, mourning the family she'd lost. Her phone stayed silent. No calls from her parents, no texts from Timothy. They had truly cut her off, erased her from their lives. I held her through the tears, never saying, I told you so, never making her feel worse. But privately, I was setting everything in motion. I contacted the best event planners in the city. I arranged security, catering, entertainment. I called in favors from business associates and friends across the country. I was planning something they would never forget. But there was one more person I needed to involve. I called Evelyn Bennett and asked if I could visit her. She welcomed me warmly, as always. I'm sorry about what happened, she said as we sat in her living room. My son was cruel, unnecessarily cruel. I'm planning an engagement party for Amanda, I said, getting straight to the point. A proper one, and I know it would make her happy if her family was there, despite everything that's happened. Evelyn looked surprised. An engagement party? You want them there after what they did? Not for me, I said. For Amanda. She's trying to be strong, but she misses them. Having them there would mean the world to her. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? I need you to get them to come, I said. Tell them it's a family event you're hosting, a charity gala, something formal. Don't tell them it's for us. They wouldn't come if they knew. Evelyn studied my face. You're a good man, Alexander, better than my son deserves. I just love Amanda, I said simply, and I want her to be happy. Evelyn nodded slowly. I'll do it. I'll make sure they're there. Over the next 2 weeks, I finalized every detail. The venue, the Grand Metropolitan Event Center, the most exclusive space in the city. The entertainment. I'd called in a massive favor to bring in Marcus Sterling, one of the biggest pop stars in the world, Amanda's absolute favorite artist. The gifts. I'd prepared everything that would be revealed during the engagement. The guest list. 200 of the most influential people I knew. Business leaders, investors, even a few celebrities. People were flying in from across the country. Meanwhile, Amanda had no idea. I'd told her we were having a small celebration with a few friends. Nothing fancy. She'd picked out a beautiful but modest navy dress. She had no idea what was actually coming. Evelyn worked her magic with the family. She told Douglas, Patricia, and Timothy that she was hosting a charity gala at an exclusive venue. It was for a cause she supported, and she expected family attendance. Douglas tried to refuse. Mother, we don't want to see Amanda or that man. This isn't about them, Evelyn lied smoothly. This is about me and my charity work. You'll come because you're my son and you'll support me. Reluctantly, they agreed. They had no idea what they were actually walking into. On the morning of the event, I woke early. Today was the day everything would change. Today, the truth would finally come out. and the Bennett family would learn exactly who Alexander Harlow really was. A private car picked up Amanda and me that evening. She looked beautiful in her navy dress, her hair styled elegantly, a nervous smile on her face. "Just a few friends?" she asked as we drove through the city. "You hired a private car for a small party?" I smiled mysteriously. I wanted tonight to be special. When we pulled up to the Grand Metropolitan Event Center, her eyes went wide. "Alex, this is the most expensive venue in the city. What's going on?" "You'll see," I said, helping her out of the car. We walked through the grand entrance. The venue was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hanging from soaring ceilings, marble floors polished to a mirror shine, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic city views. And it was filled with people. Over 200 guests in formal attire, champagne glasses in hand, classical music playing from a live orchestra. Amanda stopped in her tracks. "Alex, who are all these people?" "Friends," I said simply. "Business associates, people I've worked with over the years." Then I saw them across the room. Douglas, Patricia, and Timothy Bennett stood near the entrance, looking confused and uncomfortable. They were dressed formally for what they thought was Evelyn's charity gala. Their confusion turned to shock when they saw Amanda and me. "What are they doing here?" Douglas demanded, walking toward us. Evelyn appeared, intercepting him. "They're here because this is their engagement party," she said calmly. "You came because I asked you to, and now you're going to stay and witness something important." Douglas's face turned red. "You tricked us." "I brought you here for your daughter," Evelyn said firmly. "Now sit down and be quiet." The lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated the small stage at the front of the ballroom. I took Amanda's hand and led her toward it, my heart pounding. This was it. The moment everything changed. We stood on the stage together, facing 200 guests and her shocked family. Amanda looked at me, confused and overwhelmed. "Alex, what's happening?" I turned to face her, taking both her hands in mine. "Amanda Bennett," I said, my voice clear and steady. "5 months ago, I walked into a cafe and met someone who changed my life. Someone who saw me, really saw me, when no one else did. Someone who chose love over comfort, truth over appearances, me over everything else." Tears filled her eyes. I continued. "You loved me when your family told you I was nothing. You chose me when they threatened to disown you. You stood by me when the world said I wasn't enough." I dropped to one knee. The room fell completely silent. From my pocket, I pulled out a ring, a stunning 5.5-carat diamond that caught the light and sparkled like a star. "Will you marry me?" Amanda's hand flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, "Yes!" I slipped the ring onto her finger. The crowd erupted in applause. But I wasn't done, not even close. "And now," I said, into the microphone, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom, "I have some gifts for my fiancé." On cue, massive screens descended from the ceiling behind us. The first image appeared on the screens, a breathtaking modern mansion. Glass, steel, and stone architecture, 3 stories of pure luxury, surrounded by manicured grounds and stunning views. "This is your home," I said, looking at Amanda's face. 5 acres, 5 bedrooms, a library, a chef's kitchen, infinity pool, private theater, fully furnished with smart home technology. And it's in your name, yours alone. Amanda stared at the screen, then at me, her mouth open in shock. Across the room, I saw Douglas stand up, his face pale. The second image appeared, 2 luxury vehicles in a private garage, a midnight blue Bentley Continental GT and a pearl white Range Rover Autobiography. "These are also yours," I continued, "both registered in your name, the Bentley for special occasions, the Range Rover for every day." Amanda's hands were shaking. "Alex, I don't understand. How?" The third image appeared, a document, a property deed, but not for a house, for a commercial office building. "And this," I said, turning to look directly at Douglas, "is the Bennett Commercial Complex on 5th Avenue, the building where your family's company has rented office space for the past 15 years. Douglas's face went from pale to completely white. He gripped the back of a chair to steady himself. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. "I purchased this property 3 weeks ago," I explained to the room. "The lease agreement has been transferred to Amanda's name, which means your family's business now rents from your daughter, Mr. Bennett. All future lease negotiations will go through her." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Timothy looked like he might faint. Patricia grabbed Douglas's arm, her face stricken with shock, but I still wasn't finished. "There's more," I said, turning back to Amanda. The screens changed again, showing professional photos of staff members. "I've hired a full domestic staff for our home, a private chef, housekeepers, a driver, and a personal assistant, all on my payroll, all dedicated to you." Amanda was crying now, completely overwhelmed. "I don't understand any of this. Alex, who are you?" I smiled gently. "I'm the same man you met in that cafe 5 months ago. I'm the same man you fell in love with. I just had a few things I hadn't mentioned yet." The screens changed one more time, showing a comprehensive financial portfolio. "This is my investment portfolio," I said. "Properties across 6 states, diversified investments, business holdings, total net worth, approximately $120 million. The ballroom went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Amanda stared at the numbers on the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. $120 million? She whispered. You're... "I'm a self-made entrepreneur," I said. "I spent 15 years building this fortune. I came from money, yes, but I refused to use my family's wealth. I wanted to earn my own success, and I did." I turned to address the entire room. But finding real love was always impossible. Women were attracted to the wealth, not to me. So I decided to start over somewhere no one knew me. I took on a low profile, lived simply, and went looking for someone who would love me for who I am, not what I have. Tears streamed down Amanda's face. "You did all this for me?" "I did it for us," I said. "Because you loved me when you thought I had nothing. You chose me over your family's approval. You saw me, really saw me, and that's worth more than any amount of money." The crowd applauded, but my attention was across the room where the Bennett family stood in complete shock. Douglas had collapsed into a chair. Patricia was crying, her hand over her mouth. Timothy had turned away, unable to face what was happening. But the person I noticed most was Evelyn. Amanda's grandmother stood with her hand over her heart, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of shame like her son's family, tears of joy and vindication. She walked toward the stage slowly, and I helped her up the steps. She took the microphone from my hand. "I need to say something," she announced to the room. She turned to face her son. "Douglas, I have watched you be cruel to this young man for months. You judged him without knowing him. You disowned your own daughter for choosing love. You were so focused on money and status that you couldn't see what really mattered." Her voice broke. "But I saw it. I saw his kindness, his character, his love for Amanda. I didn't know about his wealth. I had no idea. But I knew he was a good man. Because true worth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in how we treat others." She looked at me with such warmth. "Alexander, I am so sorry for what my son put you through, and I am so proud of my granddaughter for seeing what really mattered." The room erupted in applause again. "But we're not done yet," I said, taking the microphone back. "This engagement party is just the beginning. The reception will be held at my home, our home, where you'll all see exactly what kind of life Amanda and I will be building together. Transportation has been arranged outside, and for entertainment tonight." I paused for dramatic effect. "Amanda's favorite artist will be performing live at the mansion." The screens changed one final time, showing a promotional photo of Marcus Sterling, one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Multiple Grammy winner, sold-out stadium tours, chart-topping albums, a global superstar. Amanda screamed, her hand flying to her mouth. "Marcus Sterling? Oh my God, Alex, how is that even possible?" "I called in some favors," I said with a smile. "He's already at the house, setting up as we speak." The ballroom erupted in excited chatter. Marcus Sterling performing at a private party was unheard of. The man sold out venues with 50,000 seats. And tonight, he was performing for 200 people in my backyard. Douglas had stood up again, his face a mixture of shock, disbelief, and something else, shame. He started walking toward the stage, but security personnel I'd hired stepped subtly into position. "Mr. Bennett," I said calmly into the microphone, "you're welcome to attend the reception, or you're welcome to leave. But either way, tonight isn't about you. It's about Amanda and the life we're building together, a life you almost destroyed with your arrogance and judgment." The room went silent again, watching the confrontation. Douglas opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Finally, he just nodded and stepped back. The message was clear. He had lost all power here. A fleet of luxury vehicles waited outside. Rolls-Royces, Mercedes S-Classes, Bentleys. A convoy fit for royalty. Amanda and I rode in the lead car, a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom. She held my hand tightly, still crying, still trying to process everything. "I can't believe this is real," she kept saying. "None of this feels real." "It's real," I assured her. "All of it, and it's ours." Behind us, I could see Douglas, Patricia, Timothy, and Evelyn being ushered into another vehicle by my staff. The Bennett family had no choice but to come along for the ride, literally. The convoy wound through the city's most exclusive neighborhoods, past estates and mansions that appeared in luxury magazines. Finally, we turned through massive iron gates that opened automatically. The driveway was lined with imported trees, their branches creating a natural canopy illuminated by hidden lights. And then the mansion came into view. Amanda gasped, her hand gripping mine even tighter. It was a modern architectural masterpiece, 3 stories of glass, steel, and stone. Terraced gardens cascaded down the hillside. An infinity pool seemed to spill into the city lights beyond. And the garage, currently open and fully lit, displayed a collection that belonged in a museum. A Ferrari 488 GTB in racing red, a Lamborghini Aventador in matte black, a Rolls-Royce Phantom like the one we were riding in, a Porsche 911 GT3 in white, a vintage Aston Martin DB5, a McLaren 720S in blue, and several others, each worth more than most people's houses. Combined, the collection was worth over $15 million alone. Guests filed out of their vehicles, standing in awe. Even the wealthiest among them were impressed. This wasn't just money. This was taste, sophistication, and a level of success that commanded respect. Waiters in formal attire stood ready with champagne. Soft music played from hidden speakers throughout the property. Every light was perfectly positioned to highlight the architecture and grounds. The property was illuminated like a dream. Douglas Bennett stood at the entrance, looking around with an expression of complete devastation. This wasn't just wealth. This was a level of success he could never have imagined. His entire company, built over 30 years, was worth maybe $30 million. I'd surpassed that 4 times over. The main house sits on 5 acres, I explained to the gathered guests as we walked inside. The property includes 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a private theater with a 12-seat screening room, a wine cellar with over 3,000 bottles, a state-of-the-art gym with a sauna and steam room, a library with first-edition collections, and smart home technology throughout. We moved through the grand entrance. Soaring 30-foot ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views, marble floors imported from Italy, contemporary art on the walls, pieces by recognized artists like Banksy, Basquiat, and Hockney, worth hundreds of thousands each. The infinity pool is heated year-round, I continued. There's also a tennis court, a putting green, and a private helipad on the north side of the property for quick trips to the airport or business meetings downtown. I watched the Bennett family as they took it all in. Patricia's hands were shaking. Timothy looked like he wanted to disappear, and Douglas looked like a man watching his entire worldview crumble. We moved outside to the terrace where the reception was set up. Long tables with white linens, crystal, and elaborate floral centerpieces. A full bar staffed by professional mixologists who could make any drink imaginable. A catering spread that looked like something from a Michelin-starred restaurant. Oysters on ice, caviar service, Wagyu beef sliders, truffle pasta stations. And at the far end of the terrace, a professional stage had been erected. Roadies moved around, adjusting lights and sound equipment. Within 30 minutes, Marcus Sterling would perform. The sun had set, and the city lights twinkled below us like stars. The infinity pool glowed with underwater lights. Everything was perfect. I took the microphone from the MC. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I said to the assembled guests. "This celebration means everything to me, not because of what you see around you, but because of the woman standing beside me." Amanda blushed, still holding my hand tightly. "I've spent 15 years building this life," I continued, "but it meant nothing until I found someone to share it with. Someone who loved me not for any of this." I gestured around us, but for who I am. Amanda chose me when I appeared to have nothing. She chose me when her family disowned her. She chose love over comfort, truth over appearances, and that's worth more than any amount of money could ever buy." The guests applauded warmly. Across the terrace, I saw Douglas standing alone, watching. His face was unreadable, a mixture of shame, shock, and something else. Maybe regret. I continued, "Some of you have known me for years. You've watched me build this success. But what you didn't know was that I deliberately hid it to find real love. And I did. So tonight, we celebrate not wealth or status, but something far more valuable. We celebrate finding your person, the one who sees you, the one who chooses you, the one who's worth everything." The applause was thunder. Then the lights on the stage came up. Music began to play, and Marcus Sterling walked out. The crowd erupted. Amanda screamed, tears streaming down her face, her hands covering her mouth in disbelief. Marcus Sterling was a global phenomenon. His voice could move millions to tears. His concerts sold out in minutes. His albums went multi-platinum. He'd won 11 Grammy Awards. He'd performed at presidential inaugurations. And tonight, he was performing in my backyard for 200 guests. For the next 90 minutes, he performed an intimate acoustic set. His greatest hits, ballads that had topped charts worldwide, songs that Amanda knew every word to. She sang along, crying, laughing, completely overcome with joy. I held her close, watching her happiness, knowing that this moment was worth everything I'd endured over the past 5 months. The humiliation, the judgment, the quiet patience, all of it led to this. During one song, Marcus called Amanda up on stage. "I heard your story," he told her in front of everyone, "about choosing love over everything else. That's rare. That's special. This next song is for you." He sang "Stay With Me," one of his most beautiful ballads. Amanda stood on stage crying while 200 people watched, and I stood below, my heart so full it ached. When the song ended, Marcus hugged her. "Never let go of real love," he said loud enough for the crowd to hear. "It's rarer than anything money can buy." The crowd applauded as Amanda came back down to me. "I can't believe this is my life now," she whispered. "Believe it," I said, kissing her forehead, "because it's just the beginning." After the performance, as guests mingled and enjoyed the reception, Douglas finally approached me. His face was drawn, exhausted, defeated. "I need to speak with you," he said quietly. We stepped away from the crowd, walking toward the pool area where we could talk privately. Amanda started to follow, but I gestured for her to stay. This conversation needed to happen between us. "I was wrong," Douglas said. The words seemed to physically hurt him. "About everything. About you." I said nothing, just waited. "I judged you based on appearances," he continued, his voice shaking. "I assumed you were nothing because you didn't display wealth. I thought I was protecting my daughter. But really, I was protecting my own pride, my own image." He paused, struggling to continue. "I disowned her, my own daughter. I forced her to choose, and she chose you. That should have told me everything I needed to know, but I was too arrogant to see it." "Yes," I said simply, "you were." "Can you forgive me?" he asked, his voice breaking. I looked at him for a long moment. "That's not my forgiveness to give, Mr. Bennett. You didn't wrong me. Not really. Your opinion of me never mattered because I always knew who I was. You wronged Amanda. You made her cry. You made her doubt herself. You cut her off completely. You tried to destroy her happiness because it didn't fit your image of success." His face crumpled. I know what I did." "So the question isn't whether I forgive you," I said. "It's whether she does, and whether you've actually learned anything, or if you're just embarrassed at being proven wrong." Douglas nodded slowly. I've learned that I raised a daughter who's stronger and braver than I ever gave her credit for, and that she chose a better man than I deserved for her to find." Patricia approached next, her eyes red from crying. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." Timothy trailed behind her, unable to meet my eyes. "We were horrible to you," Patricia continued. "We said terrible things. We treated you like you were nothing. And all this time—" She gestured around at the mansion, the wealth, everything. "All this time you were—" "I was exactly who I've always been," I interrupted. "The wealth doesn't change that. I'm the same person who sat at your dinner table and took your insults. The same person who held Amanda when she cried because of how you treated her. Money doesn't change character, it reveals it." She flinched at my words. "Can we start over?" Timothy asked quietly. "Can we fix this?" "That depends," I said, "on what you've learned." on whether you can see people for who they really are, not what they appear to have, on whether you can treat others with respect and dignity regardless of their perceived status. I looked at all three of them, Douglas, Patricia, and Timothy. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home tonight and really think about everything. You're going to decide if you can genuinely change or if you're just embarrassed at being proven wrong. And then, if you want a relationship with Amanda, not with me or my money, but with your daughter and sister, you're going to have to earn it. Douglas straightened his shoulders slightly. And the building lease? I smiled, though it wasn't particularly warm. That's business, Mr. Bennett. Your company will continue renting from Amanda at fair market rates. She'll decide whether to renew your lease when it comes up for renewal next year. I'd suggest being very respectful tenants. The reality hit him visibly. His business was now at the mercy of the daughter he'd disowned. Perfect poetic justice. Now, I said firmly, I'm going to return to my fiancé and our guests. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the reception, or you're welcome to leave. But either way, tonight isn't about you. It's about Amanda and me and the life we're building together. I walked away, leaving them standing there by the pool. I found Amanda on the terrace, talking with Evelyn. When she saw me, she excused herself and came to my side. What did they say? She asked quietly. That they were wrong, that they're sorry. She was quiet for a moment, staring out at the city lights. Do you believe them? I believe they're sorry they were wrong, I said carefully. Whether they're truly sorry for hurting you, that's something only time will tell. Actions speak louder than apologies. She leaned against me. I don't know if I can forgive them. Not yet. You don't have to, I said, wrapping my arm around her. Not tonight, not next month, maybe not ever. Forgiveness is earned, not owed. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences. She kissed me softly. Thank you for all of this, for loving me, for being patient, for proving that I made the right choice. You did make the right choice, I said, and so did I. I found someone who loved me for me. Everything else is just background. We stood there together, overlooking a future that was finally, completely ours. Behind us, the party continued. Guests laughed, danced, celebrated. Marcus Sterling's music played softly from speakers. The mansion glowed with light and life. And somewhere in the background, I could hear car doors closing. The Bennett family was leaving early, unable to handle the weight of their own shame. Evelyn appeared beside us. They left, she said quietly. Good, Amanda said, surprising me with her firmness. Let them think about what they did. Let them sit with it. Evelyn smiled and took Amanda's hand. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You chose love, you chose truth, and you chose yourself. I learned from the best, Grandma, Amanda said, squeezing her hand. The rest of the evening was magical. Guests danced under the stars. The catering staff served course after course of incredible food. The bar never ran dry. People told me it was the best party they'd ever attended. Several business associates pulled me aside. You've been hiding this relationship, one said. We had no idea you'd found someone. I kept it quiet, I admitted. I wanted to make sure it was real before bringing her into this world. She's special, another said. Anyone can see that. The way she looked at you during the proposal, that's not about money. That's real. I know, I said, smiling. That's why I'm marrying her. Around midnight, the last guests began leaving. They thanked us profusely, congratulated us, and promised to be at the wedding. Amanda and I stood at the entrance, waving goodbye, until finally we were alone. Just us and the mansion, and the city lights stretching out below. Is this really happening? Amanda asked, leaning against me. Is this really my life now? Our life, I corrected. And yes, it's really happening. She was quiet for a moment. I'm still processing everything. The mansion, the cars, the money, Marcus Sterling, all of it. It's overwhelming. I know, I said. Take your time, there's no rush. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, not accusingly, just curious. Because I needed to know that what we had was pure, I said honestly. Untainted by money or expectations or external factors. I needed to know you loved me, just me, Alexander, the man, not the wealth or the status or any of this. I gestured around us. And you did. Even when your family threatened you, even when they cut you off, you chose me. That's how I knew you were the one. She kissed me deeply. I would have chosen you anyway. Rich, poor, in between, it wouldn't have mattered. I know, I said. That's exactly why you're here. We spent that night in the mansion, our mansion. Amanda explored every room like a child in a wonderland, exclaiming over the library, the theater room, the closets, everything. I can't believe this is ours. She kept saying, I can't believe I get to live here. You get to live anywhere you want, I said. We can buy another house if you don't like this one. We can travel. We can do anything. She stopped and looked at me seriously. Alex, I don't care about any of this. The house, the cars, the money. It's amazing, don't get me wrong. But it's not why I love you. I know, I said. That's the whole point. The next morning we had breakfast on the terrace overlooking the city. Our private chef made fresh pastries, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit. Coffee was served in fine china. I could get used to this, Amanda said with a smile. My phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. Douglas wants to meet with Amanda. He says he needs to apologize properly. Is she ready? I showed Amanda the message. She read it, her expression conflicted. What do you think? She asked. I think it's your decision entirely, I said. But I think people deserve the chance to make amends if they're genuine. Whether you accept those amends is up to you. She thought about it, sipping her coffee. Not yet. Let him wait. Let him really think about what he did. Maybe in a few weeks. I smiled. My fiancé was learning that self-respect and boundaries were their own form of power. Whenever you're ready, I said. Or never. It's completely your choice. She squeezed my hand. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for not pushing me either way. That's what partnership means, I said. Supporting each other's decisions, not making them for each other. Over the next several weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Amanda moved into the mansion completely, bringing her belongings from her small apartment. She marveled daily at her new life, the staff, the amenities, the sheer space of it all. I have a library now, she said one evening, curled up with a book in the 2-story library. An actual library in my house. Our house, I corrected with a smile. Her family tried reaching out multiple times. Douglas called repeatedly. She didn't answer. Patricia sent flowers and handwritten letters. Amanda read them but didn't respond. Timothy tried going through Stephanie. Amanda told him she needed more time. You're making them work for it, I observed. Is that wrong? She asked. Not at all, I said. It's necessary. They destroyed your trust. Now they need to rebuild it, brick by brick. That takes time and genuine effort. After 6 weeks, Amanda finally agreed to meet Douglas for lunch. She chose a quiet restaurant, neutral territory. She went alone. I offered to come, but she wanted to face him herself. She came home 3 hours later, eyes red from crying. How did it go? I asked, pulling her into my arms. He broke down completely, she said, her voice thick with emotion. He cried, actually cried. He said he'd been a terrible father, that he'd prioritized all the wrong things, that he nearly lost me forever. He said he doesn't expect forgiveness, but he wants to try to be better, to actually be the father I deserved. Do you believe him? I asked. She nodded slowly. I think I do, but believing and trusting are different things. He has to prove it over time, with actions, not just words. That's very wise, I said. What did you tell him? I told him I need time, that I'm willing to try, slowly, but that he has to understand our relationship has fundamentally changed. I'm not his little girl anymore who needs his approval. I'm a grown woman who made her own choice, and he has to respect that. I kissed her forehead. I'm proud of you. Our wedding was 8 months later. We planned it carefully, a beautiful ceremony at the mansion, overlooking the city at sunset. The guest list was selective. Close friends, business associates who'd become genuine friends, and some family. Evelyn sat in the front row, beaming with pride and joy. Douglas, Patricia, and Timothy sat several rows back. They'd been invited after months of slowly rebuilding their relationship with Amanda. But they understood their place had changed forever. They weren't the center of Amanda's world anymore. I was. The ceremony was intimate but perfect. Amanda walked down an aisle lined with thousands of white roses. She wore a stunning custom gown that took 3 months to make. When she reached me, she was crying happy tears. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, I said. Always have, always will. The officiant spoke about love, commitment, and partnership. When he pronounced us husband and wife and I kissed her, the applause was genuine and warm, the kind that comes from people who are truly happy for you. The reception was held on the grounds. Dinner under the stars, dancing on a custom floor built over the pool, champagne flowing freely. It was everything we'd dreamed of. At one point, Douglas approached me. We'd had several conversations over the past months as he worked to rebuild his relationship with Amanda. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" I asked. "For loving my daughter better than I taught her she deserved. For proving me wrong. For giving me the chance to be part of her life again, even though I didn't deserve it." I nodded. "Don't thank me. Thank her. She's the one who decided to let you back in, to give you another chance. I just supported her decision." He looked over at Amanda, who was dancing with Evelyn. "She's stronger than I ever realized, than I ever allowed her to be." "She always was," I said. "You just never gave her the space to show it." Patricia came over too, her eyes misty. "You've made her so happy," she said, watching Amanda laugh with friends. "I can see it in everything about her. She's radiant." "She was always radiant," I said. "You just couldn't see it past your own expectations." Patricia winced but accepted the truth. "I was so wrong. About everything. About you. About what matters. About what my daughter needed." "Yes," I said simply. "You were. But you're trying to be better now. That's what matters." Timothy approached last, awkward and uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I was a jerk. I said terrible things. I judged you without knowing anything about you." "You did," I agreed. "But Amanda has forgiven you, which means I can move forward. Just remember this feeling the next time you're tempted to judge someone based on appearances." He nodded seriously. "I will. I promise." As the evening went on, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about proving the Bennett family wrong. It was about something much bigger, about finding authentic love, about being true to yourself, about understanding that real worth has nothing to do with money or status. I'd spent 15 years building wealth, but the real treasure was the woman now dancing in my arms, laughing at something Evelyn had said, completely herself and completely happy. "What are you thinking about?" Amanda asked, noticing my expression. "How lucky I am," I said honestly. "How glad I am that I walked into that cafe 5 months ago. How grateful I am that you saw me." "I'll always see you," she said, kissing me softly. "Wealth, poverty, or anything in between, I'll always see you, Alex. That's never going to change." Years later, sitting on the same terrace where we'd had our engagement reception, watching the sunset with Amanda curled up beside me, I reflected on everything that had happened. The humiliation at that first dinner, the months of judgment and dismissal, the quiet planning, the engagement party that changed everything, the slow rebuilding of her relationship with her family. "Do you ever regret how it all went down?" Amanda asked suddenly. "The big reveal, I mean, was it too dramatic?" I thought about it carefully. "No," I said finally. "They needed to see it all at once. Not because I wanted to humiliate them, though I won't lie, there was some satisfaction in it, but because they needed to understand how profoundly wrong they'd been. Not just about me, but about what matters in life." "They're different now," she said. "My dad especially, he's genuinely changed. He's humbler, more open, less judgmental." "That's good," I said. "Sometimes people need to be completely wrong before they can become right." "And the building lease?" she asked with a small smile. "Are you going to make me be a tough landlord?" "Only if they give you a reason," I said, laughing. "But I think they've learned their lesson." Children, 2 beautiful kids, ages 4 and 2, were inside with their nanny, probably getting ready for bed. They had no idea of the story behind their parents' meeting, how their grandparents had once rejected their father, how love had triumphed over prejudice and arrogance. They would learn eventually, when they were old enough to understand. But for now, they just knew they were loved, secure, and free to be whoever they wanted to be. "I'm glad you waited to tell me," Amanda said quietly. "I'm glad I got to love you for you first, before knowing about all of this." She gestured around at the mansion, the grounds, the life we'd built. "Me too," I said, "because that's what made everything else meaningful. You chose me when you thought I had nothing. That's how I knew it was real." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. The city lights began to twinkle below us like stars. And I realized the deepest truth of all. Real wealth isn't measured in dollars or properties or luxury cars. It's measured in love, integrity, authenticity, and the courage to be yourself even when the world tells you you're not enough. I'd always been enough. Amanda had seen it from the beginning, and eventually, everyone else had too. Thank you for staying with me to the end. Please like the video so it reaches more people, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a comment with your thoughts or how you might have handled the situation. Most importantly, subscribe so you do not miss the next story. Thanks again for watching.